Greetings from Eastern North Carolina, vinyl community. Mr. Rick here once again with another video. We're going to take up where we left off last week with the country, my favorite country albums. Last week we went from 1956 to 1963. And this week we'll go from 1963 to 1968, I believe is the last one. And so let's get started. One thing I will admit, last week I tried to get 25 albums in on one video, and time just took a little too long for my little old computer, and we had some problems with it. So this week we're going to cut it down to 15. Okay, see how that works. Our first album from 1964, her plane crash the previous year. Of course, Patsy Cline, and this were the last sessions that she recorded. This was the album she was working on when she was killed in a plane crash, and I'll tell you a little story. During the last recording sessions, Charlie Dick, her husband, went into the recording studio, or tried to go into the recording studio, and the producer, Owen Bradley, stopped him. And he said, "Charlie, you can't come in here." And Charlie said, "Why not?" He said, "Because we're recording these songs, and Patsy is crying when she's singing them, and we don't want to disturb all that." So Charlie left. And you can hear it in some of these sessions, in some of these songs. Faded Love, for example, she sighs at the end of it. And that just makes it that much more special of an album. There are some gems in here. Faded Love, of course. When You Need a Laugh, Give Me a Call is a wonderful song. Also, When I Get Through With You, and You Took Him Off My Hands, and Does Your Heart Beat For Me. Several just great songs during her last, these are the last recording sessions of the last songs that she recorded. Patsy Cline from 1964, and a portrait of Patsy Cline. Here's Roger Miller. What made him strong was this album right here, Dang Me. When Dang Me came out, it played all the charts. Played the country charts, played the pop charts. I even think they played it on the rock and roll shows. It was such a big hit to him. And Chug-a-Lug was also on it, which was another big hit. And he got a lot of mileage out of this album. And of course, King of the Road was not very far away. That's Roger Miller and Dang Me. Back to 1964, after they produced a portrait of Patsy, they went back into the library and they grabbed a whole bunch of other things that she had recorded and they hadn't released. And this is called That's How a Heartache Begins. And it's got Love Letters in the Sand, Shoes, Lovin' in Vain, which is a favorite of mine. He Called Me Baby, There He Goes, and several songs that she recorded that they didn't produce on albums. And of course, this I think this was the 6th album from Patsy Cline. That's How a Heartache Begins from 1964. Another one of my favorites from 64, Webb Pierce, Sands of Gold. This album, the hits were Sands of Gold, and also If the Back Door Could Talk, and Those Wonderful Years. And I always enjoyed a good Webb Pierce myself. Webb Pierce was a great country singer from his beginnings in 1952 on up till he passed away way up in the 1980s, I believe it was. But this is a great album. And there's the back of that one. It's not much to see, really, but Webb Pierce, Sands of Gold. When Gentleman Jim Reeves was killed in a plane crash in July of 1964, this album was on the charts, and it sold in the millions because this was his best of and his greatest hits album. He'll Have to Go, Four Walls, two of his biggest records were on here. Of course, Billy Baio, Stand Out Your Window, his version of Danny Boy, and several others. And a lot of people bought this record album. This is the best of Jim Reeves, Volume 1. From the golden year, 1964. And another great country album, The Best of Buck Owens, came out in 1964. Buck had started recording in 1959. Let me see if I can get the light out of that for you. And this had all his his top country charts from 1959 to 1963. Love's Gonna Live Here, I Can't Stop Loving You, So Let's Stop Kicking Our Hearts Around, and just a whole bunch of, in his early years, in my opinion, these were Buck Owens' best. And it's just a great album to listen to. If you ever come across this album, believe me, you will enjoy it. Best of Buck Owens, Volume 1. Dale Reeves in 1965 came out with a song called The Girl on the Billboard, and I believe it was a #1 hit. And there's the album. He was also good. He had his own little style, doodle-doo-doo-doo, and I run out of my doodle-doo-doo-doos and all kinds of things like that. But Girl on the Billboard, story of a truck driver who sees this pretty woman on a billboard and it just grabs his attention. He has to really be careful because he's so interested in her. And that was one of the #1s from Dale Reeves from 1965. Also from 1965, Eddie Arnold had been very popular in the 1940s. He'd owned the 1940s just about until a fellow by the name of Hank Williams came along and knocked him out of the #1 position. But when the 50s came along, he sort of lost a little bit of his vinegar. Because he was popularizing a lot of his songs as country music was, and using a lot of popular instruments, and he started to kind of go downhill a little bit. And then in 1965, he got a hold of Jim Reeves' music coordinator and hired him, and they came out with this album, My World. And this was a #1 smash for him. This brought him back. What's he doing in my world? And I'm letting you go. Let's see, there, Make the World Go Away, all those world songs. But he had a fantastic, this brought him back. And for the next 3 or 4 years, Eddie Arnold was right back up there on top like he was before. And this is a good album also. If you haven't heard it and you'd like to listen to it and you come across a copy, grab it up. You won't be disappointed, I guarantee you. Another guy that was big, especially in the 60s, Big Bad John was his massive hit back in 1961. And in 65, he hit again with The First Thing Every Morning. And this is Jimmy Dean, and with the Chuck Casey singers on this album. And that was the major hit off of this, The First Thing Every Morning. But this is also a good album. I enjoy listening to it myself. Shutters and Boards are on it from Zeb Woolley, and All By Myself, Put On Your Old Gray Bonnet, and several others. And that's Jimmy Dean, The First Thing Every Morning, 1965. They had taken, in the early 60s, they had taken Hank Williams records and they had put strings behind them, and a lot of people thought that was a great idea. I will look at one of those, but this is something else. They wrapped up Hank Williams Jr. in '64 had started making his records, and they decided to put him together with his father and son, and that's what this album is. Father and Son is what it's called, Hank Williams and Hank Williams Jr., and it's basically Hank Williams Jr. singing over the top of his father's tracks with new instrumentation. And believe it or not, the way that these records harmonize, you can't, it kind of gives me cold chills. Lovesick Blues, Honky Tonk Blues, all of Hank, well not all of them, but a lot of Hank Williams' hit records are redone with his son singing with him. I guess Hank Williams Jr. was about 17 years old when they did this. And it's a good listen also, if you haven't heard that. Hank Williams and Hank Williams Jr. Dottie West had been around since the late 50s. She'd been a good friend to Patsy Cline and had gone to a lot of her recording sessions and things like that. And she started recording, I guess, back in the early 60s. But her first hit was with Gentleman Jim Reeves in the previous year, 1964. And then she finally got out on her own, and she recorded Here Comes My Baby. And this is a good Dottie West album. It's, of course, Here Comes My Baby is the title cut and was the title hit, but she also did Nightlife, and that's where our love must be, and several others in her own style. It's done in the Nashville Now sound with the violins and all that behind it, but still a good listen. Here Comes My Baby, one of the first albums on RCA Victor by Dottie West. And Loretta Lynn was going strong in '65. Her hit Blue Kentucky Girl. This is another good one that she put out. This is her fourth album, I believe. And Blue Kentucky Girl was the hit. She does Johnny Cash's I Still Miss Someone and The Race Is On by George Jones and several others, but also some records that she wrote herself. Two Steps Forward, for example, is one song that she writes on this album. And Bill Anderson does Then and Only Then. And it's just another good listen. Loretta Lynn and her country way and her Kentucky sound from 1965. That's the Blue Kentucky Girl. Now we get to 1966. Another one of my favorites. This lady was once married to the legendary announcer Ralph Embry. And she was part of the Davis Sisters, which they had a big hit in 1953 called I Forgot More Than You'll Ever Know. And she quit singing for a while and then got back into it in the early 1960s, or the late 50s actually, and came out. This is her 1966 delivery, and My Heart's in the Country. And this light is really playing with me. But My Heart's in the Country, and Velvet Jarvis produces it. And it's just a bunch of good country songs, like I can say. My Heart's in the Country and Evil on Your Mind. Back in Nashville, they all did recut each other's songs. They put out their version of them. And there's a lot of that on here. But if you enjoy Skeeter Davis like I do, that's one of her great albums. My Heart's in the Country from 1966. Back to Gentleman Jim Reeves we go. This song had been Cindy Walker wrote Distant Drums, and she gave it to Jim Reeves, and Jim Reeves went to Chet Atkins and played it for him, and he said, no, I don't think, because the Vietnam War hadn't been there yet, and Chet didn't think that the song was good for the times, so he went ahead and he didn't record it. Jim went home and put it on tape. And then after his death in 1966, they re-released Distant Drums with new instrumentation, and it took off like crazy because the Vietnam War was in full swing by '66, and it was just a number one for him, another number one. Also, Is It Really Over was a hit from the previous year. This Is It, Snowflake, and several others. And this is another good listen from Gentleman Jim Reeves. There's a lot of these tracks, he had a habit of recording his own stuff on tape and then just giving it to his wife, and she put it away. And because for some reason he didn't think he was going to live very long. So anyway, it's a good listen. Gentleman Jim Reeves. I enjoyed his music a lot. Here we go. When they started putting out albums with Hank Williams with strings, they caused more controversy than all the Hank Williams releases combined. People either loved them and raved about them, or hated them and raved about them. The lovers of the modern sound were thrilled. Here was the great Hank Williams with lush strings and a choir behind him, and they were happy to buy the records and listen to them. The purists were appalled. To them, an idol had been desecrated, a masterpiece had been marred. Even Drifting Cowboys were split in whether or not they liked them. But the records still did sell, and this is number 2. This album came out in '66, I believe. More Hank Williams and strings, and it's just that. It's a good listen. it was a different direction for Hank Williams. I mean, all his hits had been released, and when they came out with this, and of course, like I said, the previous year they had done the thing with Hank Williams Jr., and the record sold because it was Hank Williams. And last but not least for this week, 1966. We go to Carnegie Hall. This was a live album from Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, and by now Buck Owens was just top. He was on top. He was one of the hottest country singers around, and they went to New York and recorded at Carnegie Hall, and he does a lot of his hits from 1959 to 1965. And this is the Carnegie Hall concert with Buck Owens and his Buckaroos. And it's a good listen. It really is. It's a good... Buck just couldn't go wrong back then. Everything he put out went to #1. He was just one of the hottest, besides him and Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard, I imagine. But this is also a good listen. From 1966, the Carnegie Hall concert. And that's all I've got for you for this week. Next week we'll take a little break from the country, and I've got some old popular stuff I'd like to show you. And hopefully that you'll enjoy. We'll go back and look at Robert Goulet or some of the old pop acts, Frank Sinatra and all those guys, okay? I've enjoyed it. Hope you have. If you find any of those records, of which I hope you do, you'll grab them up and listen to them. They're a good listen. Okay, from Eastern North Carolina, this is Mr. Rick saying that if the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll see you for long.